Good morning. We are live. If you are watching this on our StreamYard in about 5 different places, and if not, you're listening to it on podcast. I just have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I better introduce myself. This is Kat with Kat's Home Chat, Living by Design. And hang on for a second. Let me just ask you, is it too early to drink wine? It's 10 a.m. Central Standard Time where I'm at here in Houston. Wow, this tastes good. Actually, it's juice. Anyway, some people would say it's always wine o'clock, wherever you are in the world. We have a special guest today, and she is with Wines with Kathy. Love her name, and that's Kathy with a K. And I'm so excited because she's going to share with us some mystery, myths, and unknown facts about wine and what's in wine and some of the really, I guess, politics or statistics behind the whole marketing of wine and that and much, much more. For those of you who are on Facebook or LinkedIn, just drop a note and tell me first, answer my question. Is it too early to drink wine? I don't know. Jesus had wine, Europeans drink wine. I don't know the time frame on it, but just curious to hear your thoughts on that. More people are becoming aware and really interested in what they consume, food and beverage, alcohol, non-alcohol. Shows like You Are What You Eat have really heightened the awareness of that. Mostly everything, Kathy says, in the grocery store has an ingredient label from canned goods, sodas, even our pet food. We have 4 canines, so we certainly know about that. So why doesn't wine have an ingredient label? And I never really thought about that myself. So have you ever wondered why wines can make you feel great and other wines you don't feel great? I mean, besides drinking too much, of course. So we're going to explore the great unknown about wine. If you're interested in wine, stay tuned, share this, watch it on the flip side. But without further ado, I would like to bring in my guest, Wines with Kathy Michelle Henderson. And Kathy, welcome.
Thank you.
So happy that you could take time out of your busy Friday. I know you have a bustling career and are also a single mom. I hope you don't mind that I shared that, but I have a heart for single moms, being one myself for so many years in the past. But thank you so much for joining us. And let's just dive right in and talk about what I just set up, which is just, to me, mind-blowing. I never really thought, as you know, I don't drink alcohol, haven't for a number of years any longer, but really enjoy the wines. And I never really thought about some of these talking points and ingredients, et cetera. And what would you like to share with us about that starting out?
There's so much to share about the wine industry. It's hard just to put it in one little encapsulated conversation. Right. We're going to do our best today.
Absolutely. Cliff notes.
The Cliff Notes were pages and pages long, wasn't it? And that's just the highlights. I think for me, before getting involved in the wine industry, I always thought, well, wine's good for you. It's good for your heart. That's what they would tell us. 1 glass a day, it's good for your heart, right?
Right. Because of the grapes, the grapes have that, I forget what it's called, but some kind of
resveratrol,
amongst other things. Yes.
Right. So, going along, and I stumbled across a company that had better for you wine, clean wine. And that's when I really started to delve into and start doing my independent research, right? What is really going on with wine? Why do we need clean wine? Isn't it just grapes? Isn't it just the fermentation yeast and process? And that's when I started uncovering a lot of information about wine. And it's not what I thought it was. Obviously, the consumption of wine and the amount of grapes that are grown, they've got to keep that consumer happy and keep the products growing or the grapes growing. And so mass production then comes in, because when I was in my young teens, and not that I was drinking wine at that point, but I don't remember wine being in families' homes like it is today.
Why do you think that is? Just because of the advertising, the whole marketing aspect?
I believe it's the marketing aspect. And they realized, back then it was California was there, but they probably weren't shipping as much, and it just, the vineyards weren't as large and mass. You can have a vineyard that is 10,000 acres.
Wow. And
you just think about the size of that acreage and, keeping up with that land and making sure all the grapes are grown. And so when do you harvest? And what if you've got a bad rainstorm coming in? What do there's so much with Mother Nature that once you start looking at it, sometimes they have to harvest when the grapes are still green. They're not ripe. A lot of them are also machine harvested. And the machine doesn't know good, bad, or indifferent. It's going to pick everything. So then that's your mass commercial type of wine production. So then that starts adding in a lot of different factors. One of those being that there are no government regulations per se for what they can put in the wine, because
so I'm going to stop you right there. And I'm going to take a moment to bring on my co-host here, Jeff. Welcome, Jeff. I know you're taking care of some
good morning
here. But let's talk about the regulations. I had no idea. So you're telling us that there's no FDA or any kind of government overseeing what can be put in the bottles for consumption?
So the FDA allows up to 175 different chemicals or different things to be used in the production of wine. They allow up to 350 ingredients to be added to or included in the wine.
Wow.
And that's a vast number, right? Wow. So you never know truly what's in your wine.
So why do you need 350 different chemicals to make wine good? I mean,
great question. Yeah. So let's just take a regular set of grapes that we are eating from the grocery store. Sometimes we get them and they're real mushy and they just don't taste good, right? And then you have the ones that are super green. They are sour. And then you also have the perfectly sweet grapes. So if you are picking grapes within just a mass bunch, you're harvesting all the grapes, good, bad, or indifferent, then how are you going to make that grape juice, i.e. grape juice before it's fermented, how are you going to make the wine taste good? When you're dealing with Mother Nature, you can have a lot of rain, you can have dry seasons, you can have wildfires in California that create all the smoke. And that smoke, because it's a vegetable or a fruit, right? Like it's harvested, it's grown, they will take on that smoke flavor. So when we had all of the wildfires in California, and California being the largest producing state in the United States, how many of us remember the smoke flavor in our wines?
I was going to say, I'm sure they just spun it as we have this new, wine that has an, what do you call it, Jeff? When we used to do wine tasting, like an undertone or an aftertone, or what's the language?
Taste notes.
No, that's it. It has a smoky top note. Oh, but that can't be good. That cannot be good for our bodies.
Well, and a lot of times what you'll find is one bottle of a certain brand tastes the same no matter the year that it's produced in. So how do they do that? How do they keep the consistency when Mother Nature is constantly changing on us? So that's when they start putting additives and putting things in that just typically shouldn't be in wine.
So are preservatives, I'm sure that with 350 chemicals put in it, that there's, can you name some of the preservatives that are probably, we're not aware of that are put into wines?
They actually add a lot of tannins, and the tannins are actually what, no, I'm sorry, not tannins. What am I thinking? It's the sulfites. They put in the sulfites. So sulfites are naturally occurring in grapes. And since there are sulfites in grapes, a lot of people think that, oh, it's the sulfites that are giving them headaches, or it's the sulfites that make them feel bad the next day, just even after one glass of wine, right? I'm not saying overconsumption, because none of us should be doing that.
Right.
But with that, the tannins, not the tannins, I keep saying tannins, sulfites. Sulfites are in meats. They're in all the different things that we have. So sulfites are added to preserve the wine. And that's what makes the shelf life longer.
So that's probably, I would think, why, as you mentioned, there's natural sulfites in grapes. Okay, so a good bottle of wine that has, and we'll talk about later some of the alternatives, to cleaner wine.
Right.
And I mean, I've even seen sulfite free, etc. So the cheaper wines, probably, I'm assuming, they're gonna just load it up with the artificial chemical sulfites, which is which is why someone might feel, even after a couple of glasses of wine, they don't feel so good because of it being laden with extra sulfites.
Right.
Would you agree? Yeah.
The extra sulfites, but also studies that I've read, different things like that, have also said that if you're drinking orange juice from the grocery store, the orange juice from the grocery store has more sulfites in it than the wine. So if you don't get the headaches from the sulfites in the orange juice from the grocery store, more than likely it's not the added sulfites in the wine, because it's the same type of sulfites they're adding, right?
So let me just clarify, because Jeff, you do most of the grocery shopping in our home, and we do the orange juice, but it's fresh squeezed. Is it fresh squeezed in the store?
I only do organics.
Or
100% organic cold pressed.
Or organic cold pressed. So would organic cold pressed orange juice have sulfites in it too?
No, it says 100% orange juice.
Oh, okay. So, okay, well, that's good to know. Yeah, but just your process from concentrate or whatever on the shelf that's not organic cold pressed, that's going to have sulfites in it, similar to the wine.
The commercial orange juice that you see they market does that.
Right.
But I have a question in regards to, is there a big difference between red wine and white wine?
In regards
to benefit or any kind of things we should pay attention to? Because there's a lot of information that, is misleading.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't say from the production of wine that there's much difference, right? They're trying to make as much wine as possible so they can get it to the consumers for their bottom line.
Okay. And I noticed that in regards to some of the farming techniques makes a huge difference, like organic farming versus biodynamic farming. Can you elaborate on that for us?
So organic farming, for bottles of wine to be labeled organic, they have to go through the certification process, which is usually very costly. So you don't find tons of people that are doing that because there is a large overhead in order to have that certification. You've also got your natural wines, which what's natural, it's basically the way that they are farming it and also processing it. Biodynamic takes organic to a little bit different, a higher level. It's using that organic farming, but it's also working with our normal climate. It's working with what's in the vineyard and utilizing natural fertilizers, that type of stuff. And then you've got.
Okay, I want to stop. I want to just get some clarification there because just to reiterate what Kathy's talking about is the various terms. So there's natural wine, organic wine, biodynamic wine, and conventional wine. So if you could elaborate, Kathy, on the organic wine, which you said is costly. What's the difference between organic and biodynamic? You said they take it a step higher or level higher. What's the main differentiator between biodynamic and organic?
So basically the two things that are similar between biodynamic and organic is there's no endocrine disrupting compounds used. So, and no pesticides, herbicides, artificial fertilizers, synthetic chemicals, growth promoters, hormones, or GMOs. Those are all the same between the biodynamic and the organic.
Okay.
So biodynamic follows a holistic approach as animals, plants, the solar system are all connected. And then we also look at a complex stellar calendars, right? As astrological influences, phases of planting and harvesting. So what I think that back to is the old Farmer's Almanac. I don't know if you remember that, but that's how farmers, every year they had that and they planted by that almanac. So similar to this. Also in biodynamic farming, they enrich the soil through minerals and herbs that enhance the compost applied and intensifying the sunlight permeation.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that sounds like the Cadillac of wine. So where would those who want to clean up their wine, where would they find? Is this readily available, biodynamic wines?
I would say once you get to these types of wines, you get to your organic. If you go in the grocery store and you look for organic wine, one of the things is organic wine or grapes that are organic. So the grapes, if you see a bottle of wine, it says made with organic grapes. So that's the only thing that's organic typically within that wine. Every wine's different. It's not bashing any company, right?
But it still could have sulfites. It just means the grapes are organic, but they could have pumped it full of sulfites for shelf life, et cetera, right?
They could do that. They could also put in sugar. They could, yeah. A lot of the stabilizers to get, one of the main stabilizers to get wine to taste consistent across the board is added sugar. So, and that's one of the things that you want to watch for in wine because it becomes calorie dense. We also all know that sugar's not good for your system.
It's an inflammatory. So those of you who think you're drinking wine and it's healthy, you're not getting just the grapes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that grapes are one of the, what's been touted, the dozen dirty, right?
Yes.
You know, I tell, you know, Jeff all the time, you know, if we can't get certain things organic, that's okay, but just make sure it's not on the dirty dozen list.
Explain the dirty dozen, please.
So probably Kathy's better versed to technically tell us about the dirty dozen. Kathy?
The dirty dozen are the dirtiest, chemically processed, not clean for you, right? Like they're typically a lot of fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, because of the way that it grows. It tracks a lot of bugs. So they have to, in order to get it to us, they spray it with a lot of things.
In addition to that, I believe that I read that what qualifies on the dirty is not only what you'd mentioned, but something in the actual molecular structure of the specific fruit or vegetable. It permeates in like interiorly to the like where maybe ones that aren't on the dirty dozen, it doesn't penetrate inside the fruit or vegetable, if that makes sense. But the Dirty Dozen, it actually has the capacity to go inside and permeate to a denser degree. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And the skin of a grape is very thin, right? So it's porous, so it can take on a whole lot more. You look at a watermelon, like the skin is much thicker, right? So you look at that, and anybody can just Google the Dirty Dozen, and it's going to give you a list of those 12 that you need to be very specific in how you buy for.
So you talked a little bit about hormone disruptors, synthetic chemicals, growth promoters, GMOs. GMO is quite prevalent, isn't it? In more than just wine. You don't have to drink wine to be exposed to the GMOs. Just look up and see the chemtrails, wherever you live.
Just posted about that a week ago. So
did you really? Oh,
yes,
on your website or on a social media? Yeah,
on Facebook.
On Facebook. Okay, I'm gonna have to follow you because you're a plethora of knowledge.
So question on GMO, real quick.
Yes.
You're saying that wines aren't so-called restricted or regimented with labeling rules or labeling laws. So they could actually do the genetic modified food source or product in that bottle and not tell you, like a packaging food. Is that correct? Am I understanding that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes, and Kathy,
wow.
Can you elaborate on that? I know you and I had a pre-show call, which really is like, wow, about the gazillion dollars that's been spent, lobbied, etc. I don't care if I'm getting in trouble. This is all about educating, sharing, so you can make an educated decision on what you want to put in your body and what you want to consume and spend your consumer dollars on. So would you like to share with us a little bit about that, on all the money that's been spent to keep that labeling off wine bottles?
Yes, there is a lobbyist group that spends $30 million a year to fight to keep ingredient labels off of wine. And it's been stated that if there was an ingredient label on the wine bottle, that the label in the bottle wouldn't be big enough.
That's scary. That is too scary. Kathy, I'll have to send it to you. I did a little thing with a local media on reading food labels, and over 57 names for sugar that they hide into these 12 syllable names. That takes it over the top. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the wine bottle wouldn't be big enough.
Yeah, and why is it that the beverage industry, we'll just call it that, they don't have to have that ingredient label? There you will find organic wines will have it, better for you wines will have it, but they are not required to provide you what's in that. And so if you have an allergy, I have a friend that is allergic to corn, and she's like, I can't have wine because they put corn syrup in it. And you wouldn't know. You can even go to the websites of these wines, and there's nothing to tell you what's in that wine.
Wow.
And one of the things that, for clarifying purposes, they also use fish bladders.
Why?
To clear. Yes, you can look it up. It's all out on the interwebs. But so if you're allergic to fish or you're allergic to dairy, not all wine is vegan, right? Because they use these various different processing agents. And some wines have malolactic acid, which is a dairy acid, in order to produce the wine. So if you have a dairy allergy and you're getting headaches after wine, it could be that, but who's to know what else is in that wine? And I think that's the biggest thing, is trying to educate people to say, you don't know what's in it. So,
wow. That's
Yeah,
scary. And you brought up something, but yet, it's not just the wine, it's the beverage, what's the food and beverage, really,
right.
the whole 9 yards.
It's all the stuff.
All
Yes.
this
I am
stuff.
blown away by what you're telling me that goes into a bottle of wine.
It could be there, but we don't know, right?
Right. I think
We know what's allowed, but we
Right.
don't know what's there. And I think that's the biggest concern.
Yes. Yeah, because I think most of us really do believe wine is fermented grape in a barrel and then pour into a bottle and cap and,
Right.
pour it and sent to
I mean,
you.
that's what I'm drinking.
Yeah,
Actually,
because
it's a buy.
well, I mean,
Well-
the ultimately thing is that they sell us this bill of goods in the wine industry that it's the season, is the location, is the soil, is the farm, and then it's the fruit. No idea that corn syrup, sulfate, and all these odd items that
Fish
goes
bladder.
into this.
Fish bladder could be in it
Yes,
For
absolutely.
clarifying purposes, yeah.
for clarifying purposes. But you know what? 40 years ago, I was taking a yoga class, and the instructor had a conversation about ice cream. She said, "Did you know that there's an allowable amount of rodent poop in ice cream?"
Yeah.
That just always stuck with me. Of course, it's 10x now, decades later, in terms of what's allowed. Jeff and I have a little coin term when we're scrolling to see what we want to see. We'll say, "Well, what do you want to quit tonight, honey?" Well,
That's
we
right.
already watched Food Inc. We already watched What's with Wheat. What do we want to quit next?
Yeah.
Very eye-opening.
Because it is so eye-opening. It really is. And I know in today's, lifestyle, it's not always convenient to not purchase something off the shelf. I think we just have to try to do the best we can to try to eat as clean as we can, drink as clean as we can. Unless you choose, not to drink. And I want to go into. We've got about 5 or 10. We flexible here minutes left, and I want to give folks an alternative for drinking wine clean. And I also want to give folks an alternative, because you and I chatted that there is now availability for folks who, just love the wine taste, but for whatever their personal reasons, they want to eliminate or take alcohol out of the equation, but still enjoy their glass of vino. So you can start either way, Kathy. Share those 2 points with our audience.
So yes, low alcohol, non-alcohol, alcohol removed wines are on a rise. As you can do your research and see, as I've done, that throughout the world, more and more people are starting to make that change and go to the alcohol removed wines for either personal reasons. It may be their health. It may be that for whatever reason, but they still want, like I have several friends that have made that shift, and they wanted a wine that had that alcohol removed. And their biggest thing was, what's on the shelves is, one, hard to find. It's not always there, right? They keep a very, very low inventory. And then also it's usually calorie dense. There's a lot of calories because for it to be classified as a wine, it has to have the alcohol in it, at least a minimum of 8% alcohol by volume. So if you remove all of that, it's technically not a wine. But
can't marketing get around it, calling it just like wine, or wine like, or
they can, and they can also call it non-alcohol wine or alcohol
yeah.
removed wine,
Yeah.
right? Like they could call it that, but it's technically not a wine.
Sure.
So marketing, as we all know, can get away with a lot of different things. So what you find is, because I went to the store last night to find one of these bottles that is an alcohol removed wine, and I don't want to, but it is an alcohol removed wine. I don't want to make it despairing on any company, right? So, but they have de-alcoholized Chardonnay wine, grape juice, grape concentrate, natural flavors, sodium benzenate, potassium sorbate, and potassium metabosalate. And then it's to help to protect the color, the flavor, and the clarity.
Sure.
So
Well, I know for sure benzoate. I mean, obviously that's a preservative. That'll preserve your organs too, or not.
So it's just being aware. It's just looking at and seeing what is in that wine, right?
Mm.
And this one is 60 calories per glass. It has nearly 3 grams. Is it 3 grams of carbs or sugars? Oh, no, it's 17 grams of carbs with 10 grams of sugars.
Wow. So I'm curious, Kathy, and again, we won't mention the company, but why do you think they, being they're not regulated to, why did they choose to put it on the ingredients, except for the obvious that you have a discerning consumer who wants to know maybe what's in it?
No, it's actually labeled differently because it is not a wine. It's not a spirit. So it's considered more of a juice.
Okay.
It is not wine. So it falls under a completely different labeling category than your traditional wines.
Gotcha.
So yeah, actually on the back of it,
it doesn't behoove maybe a wine company to diversify and sell that product because of the exposure, you think?
I don't think it's because of the exposure. I think we will see an increase. This is a very growing market right now. And I think wine companies are going to have to start getting into the gist of things. I know in France, they are starting to make glyphosate-free wine. Like they're trying to get it through, and glyphosate is Roundup. So they're trying to get that across the board to where nobody can use that, or it has to.
And they'll be the first. Yeah, Europe is just such a forerunner. If any of my European friends are watching, but they're just such a forerunner in clean, consumer food and beverage. I know when Jeff and I traveled, it's like we stopped asking, is this organic? Is this harmful? Because everywhere it was, we're a little behind a lot.
We're a lot
behind Europe. Yeah.
This is predominantly Europe.
What's that?
Make sure everybody knows this was in Europe.
Yes, this is in Europe.
In America, they don't care.
No.
They'll feed
we have way too much lobbyist money and big corporations that are protecting what they've got, right? Yeah. And that's their bottom line.
Well, without naming any names, but I know you and I had a conversation, and you're aware of maybe one or more companies that introduced the non-alcoholic. We'll get into the clean, but the non-alcoholic, and they just sold out, right? They're selling out, the ones that are introducing it, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that tell you?
That there's a need.
There's a need. People are raising their level of consciousness, through podcasts like this and others who are saying, no, status quo is not going to get it. We're tired of these illnesses and a rise on diabetes and heart failure and children diseases and all of this, and it's been directly related to what we are putting in our bodies. So I think people are, they're hungry and thirsty, no pun intended, to get information like you're sharing, Kathy. Right. So I really appreciate you're just a plethora of knowledge. And I'd love to have you back again to take another twist or deep dive on, on this topic further. But before we close off, can you share with folks who are listening or watching, or is it possible for you to share a handful of companies or places to go, or where they could find either online or brick and mortar some healthy wines, that are, as you say, biodynamic or organic, etc.
I think if you just Google your area to find clean or biodynamic wines, there's quite a few out there. So some want to go and, taste it and different things like that. You can find different resources. They're more than welcome to reach out to me through social media. You can find me through Kathy Muko Henderson on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
If you'd like to know more, she's on LinkedIn. Kathy's also on Facebook.
And I can point them in directions. I work with a company that is clean and third-party tested and all of that. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, you've been, like I said, a plethora of knowledge, and I've learned so much myself. I know Jeff has, and I appreciate you sharing your voice, sharing your knowledge and your information. And please, whoever's listening and or watching, share this with someone who needs to know. So would you like to sign off, Jeffrey?
Well, I just wanted to add, I want to thank Kathy very much for bringing this point up, because, for decades, I think most of myself, my friends who are into drinking wines during the period of time, thinking it was only the grapes, the farm in the bottle, and that natural process. We really had no idea that this thing was being produced like a Coca-Cola, soda water, and all that. So there's no surprising that there are people getting sick and going, well, I live pretty clean and I don't drink chemicals, but I just drink wine. Now we know.
Yeah, so you're thinking, I just drink a little wine.
Yeah, so I want to really thank you and appreciate you that bringing out that bit of information to the world.
Yes.
Because it's instrumental for all of us at this time frame in life to really recognize who and what is out there baking things that is not good for us.
So we can make a decision to live better, live cleaner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. So I think this is a great podcast, great tidbit. And my last thing is just saying, live great. We are still doing a promo for Yahoo Publishing. For a lot of people who knows, and for those who don't know, I am working in Yahoo Publishing, working with Kat's book, Miracles Online. So we're in February. Everybody's looking for true love. I'm going to tell you, Kindle, just go to Amazon. We do a lot of social media marketing. So just go there, click on there, get your chapter, read it. It shouldn't cost you anything if you have Amazon Prime and Kindle, but it's $10 if you want to buy the book. Buy the book, because I'll tell you what, if you're looking for love, true love, you need to understand certain principles that goes behind it. It's no different than what Kathy brought to the table here. If you don't want to get a headache drinking wine, know what you're putting in your body, So that makes a huge difference to understand and have knowledge, right? So with all that being said, I'm signing off. And it's back to you, Kat.
Thank you both. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kathy. And our sign off this year is love more, give more, and be more in 2024. We hope this podcast is arming you with information so that you can do all of those with yourself, your loved ones, your family. And we will see you next week. Have a beautiful, wonderful weekend. And everybody stay safe. Bye.
Thank you.